Hi, Jason. This is Hank Jaegers. I'm coming to you from Death Valley, California. Well, not really. I have these nice backgrounds I use with my Zoom messages that are pretty handy. I have different ones I could use for different types of situations. I've been teaching in the book of Revelation, so I have some pictures of Revelation I use while I'm doing my Zoom messages there. But I just put this message together just to let you know I was thinking about you. I was looking through, thank you for joining my Zoom. I didn't know whether you would. And saw you listening Keith Ethier's Facebook mail, so I thought I'd try and see if you'd be interested. I noticed you only had a few people on your Facebook page, so I thought maybe you were being a little selective as who you would allow to come into your group. So thank you that you responded and allowed me to be so. I remember you quite well. I think you were around 12 years old. Leanne was part of my little girls' softball team, 9 and 10-year-olds. So I think you might have been about 11 or 12 years old. I'm not sure exactly your age. And I figure probably by now you might be in your 40s. Been many years gone by since then, so a lot of things have happened. I appreciate your picture in your Facebook. I expect that that's your mom. She looks a little different. When I knew her, she had black hair. So that's changed a little bit, which happens quite a bit. Probably better than gray. But anyhow, and then I expect that the girl in the picture was Leanne. And that gentleman with the cowboy hat was her boyfriend or her husband. So it's nice to see your family. I never got to know your dad at all. I I was a recipient of his generosity while I was there, but I never got to meet your father, and I wished I would have. So perhaps maybe I could just tell you what's happened to me for the last 18 years after I left Big River. It was totally unexpected. It was truly a venture into the unknown future because when I got to Michigan, there weren't any jobs available for me. There weren't any churches open. They weren't looking that were looking for pastors. There were no free churches at all, so I couldn't find any that were there. They were probably not really free churches. They went by the name, but they didn't run by the standards of the free church in Canada. So those doors are closed, and sometimes, and I've learned a long time ago that sometimes God's leading is through closed doors as well as open ones. And boy, did I face a lot of closed ones. But not too long after I got back to Michigan, my wife got a job right away working in the school district. She has some great typing. She could type 80 words a minute without making mistakes. And she used to, before she met me, she worked for General Motors, and she was in charge of the secretarial pool. So she had a good job there. She was well paid, and she met me. She became poor, and so after we moved back to Michigan, she got to use her secretarial skills once again. And it was through her influence I got a job driving a school bus with the intermediate school district, becoming a bus driver and a teacher aide in the classroom with severely mentally impaired young people. That was quite an experience, changing diapers on 15-year-old kids. That's a lesson in humility, that's for sure. but I learned to love these kids, understand them as best as I could. Most of them were pretty good. We had a couple that were quite wild that tried to attack the teacher a few times, and he had to fight her off a lot. And she was going for his eyes. I'll tell you, we had some, but most of them were okay. We didn't have that much problem with most, but we did have a few once in a while that were pretty intensive. So later on, after so many, I got to work as a maintenance man for the school, and the school moved to another location, and it became another type of school for junior high and high school kids. So I worked with them as a maintenance man, and then eventually I had to retire. Not because I wanted to. At age 62, that was what they did back here in the union system, especially. So for 2 years, I was working part time, different places, but I learned some skills that were valued to me later. I I got a job when I was 65 working at a hospital full time, and I was hired as a floor care specialist. I gained skills in learning how to clean furniture and carpets and different types of flooring. So I gained some great skills there that afforded me an opportunity to work in the hospital. And I worked there for 14. When I turned 65, I started working at the hospital, and I worked until I was 78. But due to my bad eyesight, I was forced to retire and eventually stopped driving altogether. So I been living without driving. I kind of miss driving because I used to be able to go fly fishing, another fun thing I enjoy doing. But even there, I started slipping on the rocks. I spent a lot of time in the water in the springtime, and it was a pretty cold experience. So there are a lot of things I enjoyed doing I had to give up because of age and infirmity. But I work full time without pay in my writing. I've published over 40 books. I got 30 right now that are available on Amazon. And I write books to help people understand the Bible. I write books that most people don't preach on. I wrote a book on Leviticus. I wrote in Jeremiah, Daniel, Revelation. I've written 7 books, 8 books on Revelation. And I just finished a major book on the book of Isaiah. That's a book nobody ever writes anything about. So I saw that as a challenge when I turned 85 to write a book on Isaiah, and I got the first volume finished already. So I'm working on the second now. Plus, I got two or three other projects I'm working on. So I'm pretty busy writing. I'm healthy. My mind is still intact. I in pretty good health. I just injured a knee. I don't know if I twisted it or what. I have a little puppy. He's a year old now. A little Shih Tzu dog that keeps me young. We go out and walk every day, and I get down in the grass, and I could actually. Before, when I was down on the ground, I had a hard time getting back up. But since I had the dog, I don't have any trouble anymore. We just get down, I get on the grass and play with him and get right back up again. And going out with him every day, walking with him, helps to keep me young, with along with my writing and the different things I do. Uh, I do okay. My son Steven joined the service after high school. Like me, he was in the United States Air Force, only he spent most of his career there. He was a tech sergeant when he got out. He moved to Montana, started a business there, and decided he tried something different and go to the Fiji Islands and do something with coconut. But after he got there, he found out there were a lot of governmental rules and regulations that kept him from even starting to do what he planned on doing. So he wound up doing a whole bunch of other things. And since he had a lot of skills, he didn't have any trouble finding work. But eventually his work permit ran out, and a couple of years ago, he's forced to come home again. I always said he's in the far country, but he brought the far country home with him. Kathy, Kathy was 3 years younger than Steve, and she graduated from college with a recreational therapy degree, and she worked with a program called At Home for the Blind for a while. They're working with blind people, helping them to have things they can do, recreational activities. And somehow or they closed the school up, so she wasn't doing that anymore. But she did get married, and she had two children. Megan, or Blaine is her oldest son, and Megan is 3 years younger. Megan's going to college now. She's studying to be a doctor, of all things. She didn't get her brains from me, that's for sure. Her father was an engineer, and her mother was smart. So, so we're really proud of her. She's going to Hillsdale College, one of the top universities, and she has a full ride. She went through high school with when she was 7 years old. She could read better than I, and by the time she got to high school, academics were so high that she was all finished with high school by the 10th grade. And when she came to grades 11 and 12, she was taking college courses. So she graduated from high school as valedictorian of her class. She was the top runner in cross country of the girls, and she had a lot of scholarships she earned to go to college. And so for the first 2 years, she had a free ride, and the third year she has one as well. And now she's looking to go into medical school, trying to decide what she wanted to do. At first, she wanted to be a PC, but she changed her mind since then. Somebody talked her out of it. But she's looking forward to go to what they call ophthalmology school as the first phase of her medical school training. So that's what Megan is doing right now. My grandson Blaine has not had that kind of advantage. When he was 6 years old, he was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy, Duchenne's, the worst kind. And so now he's 23 years old. Thankfully, he's lived beyond the years they predicted for him. But he's in the latter stages of his sickness and experienced a lot of difficulty. He can't do anything with his arms anymore. He can play some video games. He can't feed himself, but he functions quite well. He can still communicate well. He has a good mind. He did well in math. His father was an engineer, so he had some of those skills at home that would help him a little bit. He's confined basically to the computer and does a lot of PlayStations and tries to live as normal a life as possible under his situation. So I just thought you might be interested to know that I have had my experience with handicapped people. So I recognize that there are different kinds. You can't say a person's physically handicapped and he's handicapped because he's still, and I know you had a good mind. You spoke well and you had a lot of fun in your situation. I understand from Keith, he said you were working with your mom at the office at the station. So it looks like you're being kept busy and active. I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to know what you can do, what you're interested in, and some of the things that maybe when I write to you next or contact you, something interesting to speak to you about beside myself. So I just thought I'd let you know who I was, what I look like. A little uglier than I was when I was younger, but hanging in there. still doing what 87-year-old people don't usually do. I don't know how many years the Lord's going to give me to do what I'm doing, but I've written quite a few books to help people understand the Bible. That's what my whole purpose of writing. I don't care about making money from my books. Nobody buys them anyhow. In fact, I have a hard time getting people to read them. There's a lot of interest in the Bible, you know. So that subject isn't really popular like fiction books or some of these things that people read. But I do have people who are reading them, are benefiting and growing spiritually. And to me, that's the reward. I get about 10 people who read all my stuff. And for them, I give them free books. When I publish my book, I give them free paperbacks as a just as a appreciation for them taking the time to read my stuff. So I think my writing is easy to understand. I don't use a lot of big words. I learned how to communicate with children when I was coaching little league softball. So a lady came to me one day at work and she said, "Could you write something for children?" So I started writing children's books, little articles from the Bible for these kids. There's about 6 or 8 of them I was writing for, and eventually it became one of my books. I'll send you a copy of my children's book. I know that you probably are beyond that, but I've written a book for children like I would have had when I was raising my kids. I used to read to my kids all the time, but I never had a book like I wrote. It's called Adventures of Faith, and it's geared to teach young people about the Bible when they're little. I say that if a young person read all the stories in this book, they would probably know more about the Bible than most adults do. I really know I know that that's true. But when my children were little, I didn't have that kind of thing to read to them. So I had to read other people's stuff. But they liked, I read to them the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis, and they really enjoyed them. Even up until their teen years, they enjoyed reading those and, until they could read on their own and they didn't need me anymore. So I did try to be involved when the kids were younger. I don't know how well I did, but I did the best with what I had, and I didn't have very much probably, but the Lord has blessed me with a good mind and the ability to understand the scriptures. I can write to help people understand it. So that's what I do. Well, I guess I talked well enough. I had to use these headphones. I bought a microphone the other day, and it's been working pretty good, but now I'm getting these sounds like I'm in a tunnel or something. I don't seem to know how to change that. It worked pretty good for a while, but all of a sudden now it's not working. So I have to go back to the headphones again, but that's not so bad. At least I get good sound that way. Well, I'll see you later. Say hello to your parents, your mom for me, and your sister. Tell them I remember them fondly, and I wish I was still at the Big River. Before I left, Len Zinovich hired me to work on Saturdays at his gas bar, and he needed somebody to take a course on liquid propane handling. So I took that course from the Institute, but before I got a chance to use it, I was gone. So, and there was no market for that when I came to Michigan. They didn't seem to be interested with anybody with those skills. So that would have been good for Lynn. If I stayed there, probably I would have been managing Lynn's gas station. I don't know, but I would have been at least servicing some of the people. So, and I'm sorry to hear that he's gone. He's a good man, wonderful person, like a lot of those people in Bigger were. And well, I guess I'll go. I talked long enough. We'll see you later.